I don't know. Can everybody hear me? All right, cool. Do you need this for the recording, or do you want me to like hold it? Okay, I can do that. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Rob. I go by the handle Utkanos, which is a duckbill platypus in Russian. And actually, what's interesting is last month when I was at DEF CON and Black Hat, I ran into the other person in the hacker community that uses Utkanos, and he spelled the word Utkanos wrong. So he actually has Utkanos or NAS, and he actually has a friend. He had a friend with him who he had asked how to spell it, and his friend is Ukrainian, and so he gave him the wrong spelling. So my handle is spelled correctly. But so my talk today is about HAR file collection and analysis for malware, and one of the basic reasons for this talk is for somebody who is not an analyst, is not a malware reverse engineer, someone that does not have a malware lab, which I'm probably sure a lot of people in this room do. So what this talk is aimed, the people this talk is aimed towards are people that don't have the resources. They might be working for a small company. They may not have a lot of the knowledge of how to work Cuckoo or Thug or some of the other tools that are open source, or if you have you may not have the money for some of the expensive closed source tools and services for doing analysis of malicious URLs. So the point of this is to use just the tools that you have available, with a little bit of Python and a little bit of scripting added to that to automate it. So that's the goal of my talk, is to basically give a tool that's very, very easy to use to people who don't necessarily have the resources to do full malware analysis that I do and other people do. So who am I? I'm the Senior Threat Intelligence Researcher for Threat Connect. We're based out of Arlington, and I started there. Little known fact, I actually accepted the job at Threat Connect at last year's Derbycon. So I've been there for exactly 1 year now. So this is my my Twitter handle, Malware Utkanos, and I work for the Intel research team at Threat Connect. And at the end of my talk, we actually just published a research paper, which I'll give you the link to, and everybody should read it. It's very, very, very interesting. So what is a HAR file? So a HAR file is an HTTP archive, and the purpose of a HAR file is not what I'm going to be using it for, obviously. The purpose of a HAR file is if you are a web developer and you are doing web testing of your site or a site that you've developed. The point of this is to get page load times and different components that are part of your website, and get the load times and other information about how the page is loading. So when I first encountered this, I was like, oh, great. I can just visit a malicious website, and then this will show me all of the different, the response headers from the server. It'll, I'll get the IP address because it'll show the IP resolution from the host name. It records all of the different URLs. If one of them has like a payload binary, it'll be there. And that's also one thing in the abstract for my talk is a few months old, so I've actually improved a couple of items on there. So I had mentioned in there that I use HARlyzer. I've tossed that out on the curb, and I actually wrote my own code to do the same thing. And then also the payload binaries I actually pull down in a different way than going through the HAR file and actually pulling out base64 and all that sort of thing. But we'll get into that in a minute. But first, let's look. So the definition of HAR, HTTP archive format, or HAR, is a JSON formatted archival format. For logging of a web browser's interaction with a website. The common extension for these is .har. And so the great thing about it is it's JSON formatted. So anything that's JSON is very easy to use. You can even take the raw HAR file and just send it into Elasticsearch if you want to use it that way. And let's take a look at the components. And so this is the intended purpose, and then the additional purposes that I'm going to talk about. The main one is to record malicious URL behavior. That's this one. And then I'm also very briefly going to talk about another way where you can record manual behavior and then replay that in an automated way. And that's actually where I was introduced to HAR files, because I was using them to basically take a UI interaction and then just replay it over and over and over. And then I realized, hey, this is good for URL analysis as well. So there's actually more tools that support HAR files than this, but these are the major ones. So Chrome has it, and then also Firefox. With Firefox version 42, I think it's version 42, the ability to save and use HAR files is now baked into Firefox itself. I think, I'm guessing that the Firebug project, you might have heard of Firebug. I believe the Firebug project has kind of been pulled into Firefox, or at least the capabilities that Firebug has have become part of Firefox proper. But 42 is actually the development version, so I'm not actually going to use that one in any of this for now. I might go back and do a little bit of adjustment for the talk once 42 is the stable released version. But for now, I'm going to be using Firebug and another plugin for Firebug. So Firebug is an add-on, and then I have a plugin for the add-on called Net Export. And we'll get into that in a minute. But Internet Explorer 9 on also can save HAR files. It's in the developers tools area, so you might be familiar with that. The same thing in Chrome. It's in the developers tools area. For most of these, I'm going to show you how to use them. And then Fiddler also, if you are familiar with Fiddler, you can do proxies from Internet Explorer and other browsers and capture the traffic, analyze it. So you can actually save HAR files from Fiddler. And then Phantom.js. I'm not going to go into using Phantom.js because I've used Python scripting and Selenium for my system. But Phantom.js has the ability to save the traffic that Phantom.js goes and visits to a website, save it as a HAR file. So, and then the last one, I'm going to talk about this. This is a paid product. It's about $30. So usually I don't like to talk about stuff like that in, hacker conference talk, but this thing is too awesome, for me not to mention it. And it was a really, really useful tool for the recording manual behavior and then replaying it automatically. So, and I won't talk too in depth about that because that's not the purpose of this talk, but let's take a look. Sorry if this part of the talk is going to be a little bit boring, but I just want to get you up on what the specification for HAR files is and what the components are, what the different key value pairs are. So the main specification, it has just a key called log, and then under that there are keys: version, creator, browser, pages, entities, entries, and comment. So the creator key has a dictionary that has whatever the software that created it is, the version of that. So in this case, Firebug version 1.6. I think Firebug is up to version 2.0.12 or something like that. So the documentation that I pulled this from is actually very old. So the browser, it also shows you that it records the browser and browser version. And then pages. So there's actually there's kind of two different sections, two major sections in a HAR file. One is pages, and then one is entries. And so the difference between the two is if you the pages section is essentially the page, the URL that you visited or is being visited automatically. And then entries, that's other URLs that are contained inside of that page. So if it visits, if it visits a Flash, a malicious Flash payload that's embedded in the page, that's going to be listed under entries, not under pages. So there's usually only one page, or if you use it to analyze a traffic diversion system, like a TDS, it will have a page for each one of the hops. So if you get forwarded from this one to the next one and then that one to the next one, there's going to be a page for each one of those hops in the TDS. So entries, this is where some of the really good data is. It has page ref, and so page ref is a reference to the entry from, or I should use a different word than entry because these are entries, but the item in pages. So you can actually go through and see sort of parenthood and parent-child relationships between pages, and then the entries that were generated or were then downloaded or visited afterwards. Time and started date, I actually don't really care about this stuff. That's for the people who are actually using this for its intended purpose. So the time it took to download the page, I really couldn't care less. And then it has the request headers, response, and cache. So cache timings, don't really care about that either. Server IP address is good. This is whatever the DNS resolution of the host in the URL resolved to. So I capture this in the scripts that I use later. Connection and comment, not important for me. So the request has the method. It has the URL that was visited. Has the version of HTTP, et cetera, et cetera. Cookies, not so important for me. Headers, these are very important. Query string, this is one of the really cool things about HAR is it takes the whole query string from the URL, breaks it into key value pairs, and then puts it into a dictionary in the JSON file. So it's all nicely broken apart, and that's really important for doing certain types of malware analysis, like if you're looking at an exploit kit. Many exploit kit URLs will have key value pairs in the URL and the query string, and the values actually match up with the person or the group that is sending out the spam. So it's not always, if there's a malware campaign, it's not always one person and it's not always one group. You'll have, let's say, you've got one adversary and he has bought time on a botnet from someone else to send out spam. And then he is sending out spam and then using someone else's exploit kit. Someone else is renting their exploit kit to him. They need to know who that visit belonged to. So when you get a piece of spam that has like a malicious link in it, and you click that malicious link, when you click that malicious link, some amount of money is being transferred from someone to someone else because they're paying for your visit to their exploit kit and for your, potential infection of your computer. So it's sort of like a little token which represents who the guy down here sending the spam is, so that guy that's sending the spam can either get paid or be paid by someone else. And so it's sort of like a little tracking number. So that's really important, and that gets pulled into the query string. And then you've got the response header. This has a lot of really good information in it. You can tell the server, the response header will have often will have the server type, server name. So Apache, but if you're doing drive-by malware analysis, Nginx is pretty much Nginx. Some people even think Nginx by itself is sort of an indicator on its own. So especially if you have if you hit port 80 on a web server and it's running Apache and WordPress, and then you go to port 8080 and it's running Nginx on the same server, something fishy is going on there. And then redirect URL, so it shows you where, if you get, if this is a 300 redirect, you'll get the redirect URL listed there. Header size, body size, comment, doesn't matter. And then cookies not so interesting for me. That's usually going to be something that a legitimate website is using. So it's still in there. And then it nicely breaks out each one of the headers into the key value pairs in the header. And then you can loop through that and search for different information. Query string, as we talked about, the parameter and value. is nicely broken out there. And then content. So it shows you the MIME type for whatever is in there, whether it's a flash file or whether it's, a downloadable, octet stream, something like this. So that's all found here in content. And then, so how do you generate a HAR file? It's actually super, super, super easy. So, when you're doing it manually, in Chrome, so you may be familiar with this. If you go to the little pancake menu up in the corner of Chrome and then navigate to More Tools and then Developer Tools, and once Developer Tools opens, and this is a HAR file that I created, or this is not the HAR file. This is Developer Tools visualization of GitHub, but this can be saved as a HAR file. So what you do is just right-click on that area down in the bottom, and then it shows you Save as HAR file with content. So then Firefox takes a little bit more effort. However, the good thing about Firefox is when I'm using Selenium to automate the visiting of the websites, Selenium works very well with Firebug and NetExport and Firefox. There is a Chrome driver that's part of the Selenium project, but I wasn't able to find a way to get Selenium to talk to the Chrome driver and tell the Chrome driver to save a HAR file. So I don't use Chrome for this talk at all. So what you have to do for this is you go to install Firebug, go to the Tools menu, and then install add-ons. And then you have to install NetExport. You have to do one of those things that that's never recommended. You go to some random website, you download the add-on file itself, and then you have to right-click in add-ons and say add an add-on from a file. So never safe, but in this case, you should be doing this inside of a VM anyway. So, and actually, I don't think NetExport is not that bad of a thing. No, it's pretty small. Yeah, it's pretty small. And actually, at the end of my talk, I'm going to be publishing this to GitHub, and I actually have the two most recent versions of the add-ons in my GitHub repository. So it's all right there for you to use. What's that? Yeah, I backdoored them. Exactly. Ooh. Okay, so then what you have to do in here is, and this is also just for the manual, if you want to do this manually and save a HAR file, the automation takes care of all of these settings for you. We have to click Enable under the Net panel. And all of these things, like in IE, in Chrome and Firefox, Firebug, it all has that sort of same like waterfall diagram format with each one of the entries listed. So, and this is the same thing, but this is in Firebug, so it looks nearly the same. And the way you save it is almost the same as well. So just right-click on click on Export and then Save As, and then you've got a HAR file somewhere, wherever you put it. So let's get into the fun stuff. This is the part that's the exciting part of the talk. So HAR collection automation, using Selenium and Python to automate visiting a set of URLs, potentially malicious URLs. So I've written two components here. Each one is an independent tool. So the first one is harcollector.py, and this actually leverages HAR to sticks when it gets to the point of after the HAR file has been collected, it then parses the HAR file. But each one of these can be used independently. So if you have a HAR file, you can just use HAR to sticks to have that parse out the HAR file and pull out IP and other network indicators and have them saved in sticks format and MAEC format. And also, I will say that I'm not an expert in sticks and MAEC. It's actually a very labyrinthine standard, and so I want to apologize. I may have picked a combination of objects in there that is different than what someone else has picked and put together, but the data is in there at least. And if anyone has any more expertise than I do about sticks or taxi or any of that stuff, please suggest a better way to put together the objects, but it works. So so the HAR collector, let's take a look at that. The HAR to the two components, HAR to sticks and HAR collector. Let me just change to group.
Selenium automates web browsing?
Mm-hmm. Selenium is awesome. Selenium is like one of the best things ever. Okay. All right. So this is the program for the Selenium. So I've imported Selenium using the WebDriver, and then a massive number of preference settings down here. And the preference settings down here basically make it so that the HAR file gets automatically saved. Also, if there's a download, this is also this set of preferences super dangerous because it turns off any of the dialogues for downloading. So it just goes ahead and says, yes, please download everything. So, so don't use these settings anywhere else, in your regular browser, unless you're insane. So it basically pulls in both of the XPI files, and then adds them to Firefox each time. And so I've actually put a HAR collector directory in your root, or in your home directory that contains those two files, so it knows where to find them. Does a whole bunch of setup of all of the settings, and then does a visit of the URL. One of the things that I need to work on in here is the timing of when it saves the HAR file is not controllable by me in Selenium, so I have to sit there and give it a wait time. I have it waiting for 120 seconds after each one, just to make sure that the page has fully loaded. And then, because when the page is fully loaded, that's the moment when HAR files begin to be saved. And sometimes if it's loaded a lot of different components in the page, creating the HAR file takes a little bit of time on its own. And so I have to leave like a nice leeway in there. And if there's any web developers that use this on a regular basis for your own stuff, not collecting malware, and like a knob or a switch that can change this so that I can force the HAR file to be done without using a timer, please let me know. But I've found that for almost all the websites that I've looked at, 120 seconds is pretty good. And then the sleep time at the beginning is to make sure that both of those add-ons have been loaded properly. And it just goes through and it pulls down all of the HAR files, saves it in one location, and then I have it download any of the files, any binaries that are on the site, and it puts those in the download directory. And then I call translate HAR. And so translate HAR actually runs the other program, HAR to sticks. So we'll look at that one next. So HAR to sticks, if anyone is familiar with the Python sticks, Cybox, and Mike stuff, this is the imports for all the objects that I'm using in here. And then I go through and I create both MAEC package and also a sticks package. And the reason for that is the MAEC MAEC right now is just the malware subject, as the URL is the malware subject in this case. And then as you know, in a later stage, if you do further analysis and have findings according to the MAEC format, you can then add those to this as you go along using other tools, not this one. But it starts off with the malware subject and then saves that as a MAEC package, and then the sticks package is this part. So it goes through and it pulls out the URL indicator and then saves that as a URL observable in the sticks package, and then goes through and pulls out the host and puts the host into another observable, and then last of all puts the IP address into the third IP observable, and then address observable, and then adds all of those into a sticks package, and it puts each of them as like an IP watch list, domain watch list, and URL watch list, so that you can consume them in whatever devices and systems that can consume sticks, and it will understand that it needs to flag these, or if you've got an intelligent system like Threat Connect, for example, you could consume it that way and get your set of indicators there. That'll be the only plug I make. And then this was the parse HAR section. It's actually, I found it's much easier for me to just pull the data out of the key value pairs in JSON than it is to use HARalyzer and go through someone else's software and just to do something simple like this. So that's why I basically replaced all of this labyrinthine code using HARalyzer with 79 through 95. So and then it goes through and it actually pulls out the name of the website from the HAR path, because the way the way Firebug saves things, it saves it with the URL, or at least, the host name in the file name for the HAR. And so I pull that out of there and use that as the site name, and then jam it all into the sticks package, and I'm done. And then save them into the same folder where I found the other stuff. So, or where I found the HAR file to begin with. So it's pretty simple, and it works. And let me flip back to the presentation. And and also I didn't want to tempt the demo gods, so I made a recording. I brought my MiFi so we can visit a few sites and see it live, potentially. But just to make sure, I wanted to have the recording, which I'll show. Come on now. All right, can everybody see that? Cool. So I'll kind of describe what is going on here as it happens. So first thing I do is run. So what this takes is a list of URLs in a text file. I think I didn't cut off the beginning of it, but all right. So it takes I should be doing a -H. Come on. There we go. All right, -H. Thank goodness. Okay, so it takes a list, one URL per line in a text file, and pulls out each one of the URLs and visits it with the HAR collector script. So I've also time-lapsed this a little bit because that 120 seconds visit time, or the sleep time in between each one, I have removed that. So don't worry. we're not going to sit here and wait for a few minutes for each one. So as you can see, it pops up Firebug, opens Firebug. The little green light there means that export is automated, and then visits the malicious website, alltraves.ru. Obviously, this is probably a malicious website. This one actually has a one malicious iframe that's in the site. And so it pulled the HAR file, created all the MAC indicators and all that, moves on to the next one. And also, this is not necessarily always going to be for malware specifically. So there, it downloaded the exe file in that case. Somatomo something dirty 1.0.exe. I would never run that. But it's not always, I say that this talk was about malware, but if you're doing like phishing links and looking at phishing sites, it works just as well for that. So this next one, I believe, is a phishing site. And let's see. I didn't pull out that couple of the 10 seconds at the beginning of each visit. So, yes, so that's obviously a phishing site. One account, all of Google, choose your email providers, give us your login and password, and then you'll continue to Google Drive, and so will we. You can use it to pull out, you're going to get the indicator here of sanbonmatsu.net and then whatever IP address it's running, and then the phishing URL. So you'll have like the sticks for each one of those, yeah. Yes. So in this case, that would be a little bit more advanced. I'd need to go and automate visiting each one of the forms, which is a really good idea, but I didn't do that in this sort of proof of concept. But yeah, that would be pretty easy to do. Just look for the form, put crap in it, hit go, and then catch the next one. And this one, yofilms.ru. And it's got like there's some parts in there that are throwing a status of 444. Fun stuff there. And then this next one, I think this is going to be a file download if I remember correctly. Yes, so k1.exe. I haven't actually run any of these through anything yet. They're still sitting here on my laptop, and we'll take a look at them. We'll take a look at. We'll basically like transition over to terminal here. Basically the next moment after this video stops, I kind of just left the VM open so we can take a look at the files that it produced. And I think there's one more after K1, or maybe two more. Kind of speed this up a little bit. So yeah, as you can see, beds.exe, whatever that is, just got downloaded. And then pa.exe. So pa.exe was the last one, and that's it. So that's the end of the recorded demo, and I will jump over to the VM itself. All right, cool. So the way I have it arranged, I just take the host name and append that to a timestamp of when the visit happened or when the visit began, and turn that into a directory. And then in that directory structure, I keep all of the different files, including the downloaded file. So let's look at the first one, alltraves. Okay, so as you can see, there's a download folder here, and then here's the HAR file that was collected by NetExport, and then over here, the MAEC and the .sticks file. These are the ones that I created using the HAR2Sticks program after the visit and after the HAR file was saved. So let's take a look at the HAR. So, it has all the different sections that we went through earlier. So it's got the IP address resolution. It has the, let me see if I don't think, through the VM, I don't think I can scroll properly using my, my Apple trackpad. So let me just put that through less. Okay, cool. So, has the title of the page and the other information about that. And it has each one of the components that was loaded in the page. And so each one of these has a separate sticks indicator created for it. And so parse through all of this data, and then let me just quit out of that. And then it creates the MAEC file. So let's take a look at that. And I don't actually know why I'm going to look at MAEC, because the stuff is like just like it's horrible. It's actually XML, which is so last year. I actually feel bad taking nice JSON. I feel bad taking like beautifully crafted JSON and then translating it over to this garbage. But I do, so, because this is, industry standard kind of stuff. So this is the mic package with the URI object type of URL, and then here we have our malware object, or I'm sorry, malware instance object, and et cetera, et cetera. Let's leave that, and then last, I'm going to look at the sticks file, which is just as ugly. Just as ugly, but a lot longer. So sticks, and it has all the sticks and Cybox stuff at the top, and then it goes through each of these observable indicator types, URI, host, and IP address. So that's the output. You can then take these files and jam them into, whatever sort of thing you have that speaks sticks and taxi. You could have these set up as you could even set up a taxi server to sit there and kind of cough up these files as they're created. Whatever you'd like to do, you could have something else like subscribe to it. But that's getting a little bit too complex for the focus of this talk. And then, looks like I'm almost out of time. Actually, I'm just going to go over. They all went a little bit over, so I'll just keep going. Yeah, I'm the last talk, so some of you will just get up and leave, I guess. But all right. So I wanted to point out the one thing in here that was the other uses. So this is just the No, I don't want a customized toolbar. Come on. Okay, so potential, offensive capabilities potential. So using HAR files, what you can do, and this is where my introduction to HAR files began. There was a too far. There was a website that had, a tool that I needed to enter data into, and I wanted to automate that. And it had all kinds of AJAX stuff and just lots and lots of components that all had to be added together for it to work, and not have that website know that I'm automating them, because they don't, most places don't like that. So what I did was I used Chrome, and I did my stuff like I usually would in that UI. And then when I was done, I saved that entire session as a HAR file. And then I used this is the easy button for me. There might be other tools that can do the same thing, but I used PAW. So you can import the HAR file into PAW. PAW is a REST client, so it's a REST client for Mac. And so I imported the HAR file, and basically the HAR file gets imported into the same sort of component in PAW as different REST URLs. So it kind of treats the visit that you just did, the visit that you just told it how to do, as a REST URL, and so, or a REST API URL. And so from there, it has a really awesome another feature where you can export Python requests code based on the API visit that it's looking at. And so I basically took the HAR file and then went through this pathway. Now I have a set of Python requests code, and then I can take the one piece of what I did that I want to manipulate and just redo that over and over and over and automate that. So I'm sure there's much potential in that for replaying replay attacks and that kind of thing. So have fun with that. This is the link to PAW. And questions? If you have any questions, let me know. But one thing really quick. So that's my Twitter handle again. And then this is the blog for us and my team. And then also this is the link to the paper that we just released the day before, or actually on Wednesday. So check out that paper. Very interesting stuff. And now, question. That's a good question. So what I would imagine what you're asking is, if a user goes and visits a website, can I then extract a HAR like in the background? Or it is, but the thing is, it requires the developer's tools or Firebug to be open. So if you're thinking of doing something sneaky to someone else, it would be very obvious that they that. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because it's very obvious. And I think if you were to use something like a man-in-the-middle proxy of some type, you might be able to, if that proxy that you're using supports HAR, then you could probably create HAR files based on the traffic that goes through your proxy. But that's just a guess. Question? No, this was Firefox. All of this is Firefox. Chrome, unfortunately, the Selenium Chrome driver for Chrome, I wasn't able to find a way to automate the saving of HAR files using Chrome. So Chrome, the extent of Chrome's usage here was just for manual HAR file creation, like visit something, the second use case that I had. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.